Is Alistair Begg of Truth for Life, heard daily and weekends on Bible School Radio, 91.3 KDKR, Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC Commerce.
Portions of KDKR's daily programming do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, just when you thought that things might be getting a little bit better, well, you get the Doomsday Clock. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. I do have a line open if you'd like to call in to the program, 1-877-913-5357, 1-877-913-5357. You can also go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com and send a question in, and we'll get you taken care of. That's off the website, prudentmoney.com. We had a series of technical problems there at the beginning of the program. I'm assuming they're all fixed. I don't know what you heard or what you didn't hear. I opened up with this. I said, just when you thought that things might get a little bit better, you get the Doomsday Clock. I know we're talking about the gloom and doom marketing and gloom and doom industry quite a bit. But the reason I actually talked about yesterday, one of the big reasons why that I've spent some time talking about that yesterday is because it's so very important that you can learn to interpret what things mean instead of taking things at face value. That's extremely important for your stress level, number one. Number two, and for a greater understanding of where you fall as far as what's being put out there in the media. And today I came across this article about the Doomsday Clock and how close we are to Armageddon in 2023. I talk about this because I find it interesting. I think we all know that we're a little bit closer to things falling apart anyway, as it stands. It says that a team of scientists decides whether to adjust the clock, the Doomsday Clock, every January, and this year they moved the clock even closer to midnight. It says planet Earth has seen its share of horrors over the last 3 years. Sorry to get our gloom and doom, but we're struggled through a global pandemic that's yet to ease, food insecurity, worsening weather events, and the ever-present threat of nuclear conflict. And, of course, they also talk about the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, which I can't even remember when. I know it started last year, but I'm just trying to think of when it started, if we're even close to a year yet. That's been going on for a very long time. So what they did, the clock was moved. Let's see here. I'm trying to find exactly where that was. The Doomsday Clock, they moved it to 90 seconds to midnight. I think it was, where is that? Anyway, I think it was, they moved it up 10 seconds, but it's 90 seconds to midnight. Once it hits midnight, supposedly that's when Armageddon happens. And what it made it move, because they haven't moved it for the past 3 years. What made it move, I think, was the threat. A big part of it was the threat of nuclear war, everything that's going on with Russia, and the uncertainty that brings. The furthest the Doomsday Clock has been from Doomsday was in 1991, as the Cold War ended and the U.S. and USSR signed the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. And yes, there is a real physical clock. It's located in the lobby of the bulletin offices at the University of Chicago. How about that? A doomsday clock telling us kind of something we already know. I was looking through some notes just after reading that article about the doomsday clock, and came across a quote from Oswald Chambers, who I know many of us really like really get a lot out of his writings and what he has produced. But he, in one of his writings, and it was talking about crisis, he says, he brings us to a place where he asks us to be our utmost for him. And we begin to debate, then he produces a providential crisis where we have to decide for or against, and from that point, the great divide begins. If the crisis has come to you on any line, surrender your will to him absolutely and irrevocably. And, really, that is the message here. And as we're talking about the things that could go wrong, things that could happen, the risk that's incredible amount of risk that's in this world today. And it comes down to focusing and not taking your eyes off that relationship with Christ. It's so easy to get lost in what is going on in the world. I've described that as a lot as noise. But the safest place to be is in God's will. And that's the exact same thing about stewardship. And I know that a lot of people are worried about money, worried about, are we going into a recession, looking at their 401k accounts and thinking about last year and how not so good it was. And the finances can create a lot of stress. But once again, the safest place that you can be is in God's will. And I believe that God has got a stewardship will for us as well. I think it's important as far as risk goes, as far as investments goes, to know your risk level. I know I talk about this quite a bit, and I'll continue to talk about it, but I think that this is the key to beginning to figure out what steps to take. Is to know your risk, then get someone to help you create your investments around that risk, and then most importantly, focus on your own stewardship on a day-to-day basis, and understand your relationship to money and your relationship to Christ. And a lot of times those get confused, as Matthew 6:24 says. But that is the answer. 1-877-913-5357. That is the number to call, and I do have a line open, 1-877-913-5357. Well, finally, we've got everything put together, and we're going to be holding our next webinar a week from tomorrow. So we're starting a little bit later than we normally do to talk about it, make sure everybody knows about it. But I'm really excited about doing this one because it talks about what's happening or what could happen in 2023. And there's a verse in Proverbs 18:15, that says, "Intelligent people are always ready to learn. Their ears are open for knowledge." And I think that is so very critical in times like this, that we seek to understand how a lot of these things work. And the great thing about a webinar is that I will be able to show you visually a lot of what I've been talking about. Because I think once you put the visual element into it, you can start to understand better exactly how things work, how inflation is sticking around like it is. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the real estate markets. In fact, I wrote a piece on that this morning. Are we headed for a recession? If you talk to most of the experts, they would say that we are. Then there's the bear market in bonds and stocks, both at the same time. Are we halfway there? Are we about over? Are we just getting started? What's the best place to keep cash and emergency money? And then what could be the best kept investment secret of the next rebound? Because at some point, this is all going to rebound and turn around. And how will you be invested? Because it's one of those things where how you were invested on the way down may not be the best place to be invested on the way back up. So we'll be talking about things to consider and what I do think is the best investment secret that nobody's talking about. Then most importantly, we're going to talk about what steps do you take in 2023 to not only be safe, but also grow your money. So that's going to be Wednesday, February the 1st, and that's going to be at 12 noon. We found that these lunch webinars work pretty well as far as people, the availability, as long as they know ahead of time, to be able to take a little bit of time off, especially when you've got everybody so many people working from home. And of course, most people do take lunch. So you can just kind of plan around that and watch what we've got to talk about. Because think about it, in 2020 started the period of COVID, pandemic. 2021 we started the period of inflation, and then 2022 started the bear market in stocks and bonds. And I emphasize that once again because we're pretty much accustomed to every once in a while a bear market coming along in stocks, but we're rarely do we see it happen in bonds. In fact, I think that this particular year, last year was the worst year in bonds that's on record. But not only to have a bear market in bonds, but a bear market in stocks and bonds at the same time. Very highly unusual. So we're going to be talking all about that. All you have to do is go to prudentmoney.com and sign up. You'll see, be pretty evident where to sign up, and we will look forward to talking about this in a week, just a week away. 1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. I'll be right back. Hi, this is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. 2020 started the period of COVID. 2021 started the period of inflation. 2022 started the bear market in stocks and bonds. What happens in 2023? Well, I have no crystal ball. However, I do have countless hours of research and opinions to draw from that can give us an idea of the road ahead. On Wednesday, February 1st, we are going to take 50 minutes to talk about what could take place in 2023 when it comes to the following areas. Will inflation go higher or go away for good? Is the real estate market about to crash? Are we heading for a recession? Is the bear market in bonds and stocks about over or just getting started? What is the best place to keep cash and emergency money? What could be the best kept secret of the investment world during the next rebound? What steps do you take in 2023 to not only be safe but also grow your money? Tough questions, real answers. Let's have a discussion. On Wednesday, February 1st at 12 p.m., join me in a live Zoom presentation where we discuss what you need to know to be profitable in 2023. For more information and where to sign up, just go to prudentmoney.com.
What's the greatest prayer in the Bible? Would you choose Hannah's in 2 Samuel? What about Solomon's in 1 Kings? Or the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6? Well, I'm sure that if we sat down around a table, we could have quite an interesting discussion. This week on Through the Bible, we learn about prayer that is worthy to be included on that list.
Listen daily, 6:30 p.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Hi, this is Kirby Anderson with the Point of View Radio Talk Show. I want to invite you to listen to our program on KDKR from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m. Monday through Friday. We look at various issues from a biblical perspective. Our topics range from politics and economics to the Bible, theology, and apologetics. We also bring authors and informed experts to the program. We talk about anything that affects your faith, your family, or your freedom. Hope you'll join us every day on Point of View right here on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open. Would love to hear from you today, whatever is on your mind. 1-877-913-5357. You know what's interesting, and I was talking about this the other day with a client about how the job situation is what it is. It seems like that we've got plenty of jobs, but not enough people to fill those jobs. And something that just doesn't make sense to me, and I bring it up from time to time, but it's because it still does not make sense to me, is the dynamic that exists in the employment markets. And I went through every Thursday and counted these numbers. I reported them to you every Thursday during the shutdown, during the pandemic. And we talked about one of the only real numbers that's out there is how many people actually filed for unemployment benefits. And I had totaled up over 90 million people. Now, unless my math is completely off, which I don't think that it is, that's a huge part of the working population. Now, you know, some of those layoffs were temporary layoffs. Obviously, you could make an argument for some people gaming the system and filing a couple of times. I don't know. Still a big number. But what really doesn't make sense is that you had two dynamics happening at once. The first one is that the economy was dropped enormously. I think it dropped to negative 15% economic growth in one quarter. You had I think it's safe to say that during that period of time we had a very weak economy. So for the economy to absorb however many millions of tens of millions of people just like that and come back boggles my mind. I just don't believe that it could happen. And then you had all the businesses that went under. And I've yet to see any type of an accounting of that. Even I've heard various estimates, and they were all very high. Especially hit very hard is the restaurant community. And then also to see hotels, the hotel industry go. We talked about this along the way. The hotel industry going through massive layoffs, and hotels shutting down. But yet, and then today, of course, to stay in a hotel is extremely expensive. I don't know if that's how much that's inflation or how much of that is survival or a little bit of both. But it just all doesn't make sense to me. And even still today, I'm noticing more so in the restaurant business, granted, but even walking through, I know one mall in particular, how many businesses have shut down. In fact, an analyst that I follow who lives in Las Vegas put out social media put out a video of the Forum shops. Now these are very, very, very popular tourist attraction type places in Vegas. If you've ever been to Vegas, you've seen that the shopping. I think it's even kind of it's I'm not sure which hotel it's associated with, but he took his phone and with a camera and just went back and forth all as he's walking and showed all the empty shops. And he said this was the middle of the day on a weekend. Just very, very interesting what's going on, and especially with supposedly, I think we already are in one, but that's neither here nor there. It was supposedly how close we are to a recession. So one of the reasons why that I'm doing the webinar, and if 2023 and your money, and once again, if you want to sign up for that, you can go to prudentmoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. I had a question come in about money market accounts, and the question was, how do I find a good one? It seems like some are paying more, some are paying less. It's an interesting observation as far as money markets go, because I think we've been so used to money markets paying nothing. I mean, nothing for so long. And when I say money market, that is the equivalent to like a savings account found mostly in brokerage companies and mutual fund companies, that kind of thing. And they're basically, it's where you put cash in a money market. Like I said, they've been paying hardly nothing for a very, very, very long time. And all of a sudden, with the Federal Reserve Board raising interest rates, taking one look at the money markets, and they are now earning the equivalent to 3.8 to 4%. That's a pretty good rate of return considering where we are today. And then I saw the other day a money market in a 401k plan that was negative 3% for the year. And then there's a company like Fidelity who has several money market accounts that you can choose from, but they automatically put you into, or it seems like they automatically put you into, if you open up an account there, into what's called F Cash. I believe that's what it's called. And that is a money market that's gaining 1.5%. So the bottom line is, double check to see what kind of money market you're in if you have one, especially if you are putting emergency fund money away. And here's the rub, is that savings accounts aren't getting it. I don't believe that savings accounts are getting doing as well as money market accounts. Of course, savings accounts in most banks are FDIC insured. Money markets are not. But it's something you might kind of weigh back and forth, as do I really want to be getting better return on my cash versus hardly nothing in a savings account. But double check and see what you're doing. The money market account that I saw in a 401k plan, and this was a total return for the year 2022, was literally negative 3%. I don't think I've ever seen a money market at having a negative return. They're not supposed to. Technically, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to, for every dollar you put in, you have a share of that money market. So if you put in $2,000, you have 2,000 shares of the money market. The share price is $1, obviously. And not since the great financial crisis have we seen the money market what's called break the buck, and that caused an enormous amount of crisis. I think the biggest crisis is a crisis of confidence, much because people have confidence that money markets are nothing's going to happen to them, but yet that happened. Of course, the government immediately backstopped that money market account. But double check and make sure that you know what you got your money in. Now today, and I'll be talking more about this at the webinar on Wednesday a week, but today I wrote a piece on the real estate markets and whether or not they're going to crash. If you talk to JP Morgan, put out a recent study and talked about that they felt like that the housing crash would happen. and that because of that, will bring back affordability into the marketplace as of 2023. So if I read this the right way, and I think I did, we're supposed to have a crash, or that we're in the middle of one, and we're going to all of a sudden turn around all in the same year. Not really how real estate works. But anyway, I have a different take on it because I don't believe that we're in a situation where we are in a crash. I don't think that in fact, I'm going to have mortgage consultant Mark Pfeiffer on tomorrow to talk a little bit about this. But I don't think that we're in a scenario where prices are crashing down. There's still demand out there. Granted, it's a weak demand, and we're coming off. We're seeing some negative numbers each month in the real estate indicators, but we're also seeing real estate coming down from a huge bubble high and coming back down to earth price-wise. So they could stand to drop quite a bit. But go check that out. That's all at prudentmoney.com, and you can read for yourself. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.